I am here, as of course I normally am on Thursday night. Bradford Ferguson, how are you and the rest of the Rebellionaires doing?
I'm doing well. I'm kind of getting burnt out trying to keep up with all the announcements every day that's happening, but um I'm I'm doing all right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's almost impossible. I get less sleep and I have no time for television anymore. It's just, it's just like I wake up in the morning before I get out of bed. I've got my phone. I mean,
All X all day.
it's all X all day. I mean, I do have to go and
It's
look at those
yeah,
other,
it's too
mainstream
exciting to
media.
watch, and yeah, you do kind of want to see how the different coverages are being
Yes, yes,
narrated and spun. It's interesting to follow, yeah.
exactly. So I'm I'm really breaking a lot of news recently. So I'm gonna, I guess, maybe break news with you because unless you guys have already reported on this, but as in the green room, you just told me that you guys have got a first quarter, uh,
No, not for first quarter.
not first quarter.
Yeah. So yeah, I, I I wouldn't be surprised if Lathrop can do 20 gigawatt
No, I
hour.
wasn't talking about that, but that's
Okay.
okay. I was going to start with your first quarter expectation for
Oh,
the company as a whole.
okay.
Let's start with that. What are you thinking that the company, we'll back into Lathrop, okay?
Okay.
So what are you thinking about first quarter? Because certainly there are people that think it's going to be a bust. Uh,
Mm.
there are people who think maybe they can make it up in time. I don't think they can make it up in time. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, so for Tesla, um, there's some concern that Elon being so active politically that's hurting their sales. In Germany, uh, their Tesla sales are down 60% versus the last January. This is in Germany. So people are blaming this on Elon, coming out in support of the AfD party in Germany, which is um, more in alignment with what Doge and Trump are about. And so that's a concern. But really, what happened in Germany and all over the world is Tesla, was producing Model Y, the best-selling car in the world, and now they're doing the upgraded Model Y. And to do that, they're switched over all their lines to the upgraded Model Y.
Mhm.
And they can't just snap their fingers and re-ramp at 90 to 100%. It just doesn't happen that way. I know we think, Tesla works miracles, but there's going to be a ramp. It's going to take some time. It may take a couple of quarters. We saw with the Model 3, the upgraded Model 3 in Fremont, that it took several quarters to get back to toward 100% production of, where they were before, um, shifting from the old Model 3 to the new Model 3.
Right.
So it's going to take some time. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if the production and delivery numbers, I don't know where Troy is, but I wouldn't be surprised if it has a three in front of it.
Okay. AJ's at 425, just to
Hmm.
let you know.
Yeah.
So down from 497, something like that.
Yeah. So it's in the 490s in
Right.
the fourth quarter.
Right.
Um, so this is just a function of primarily the Model Y.
Sure.
And Um, I think people are also forgetting that Tesla didn't grow last year, their d deliveries, and I think part of that was the Model Y was Osborne. I know we talked about it a little bit on the show. You're brave enough to talk about it. We don't talk about the new Model Y, but we you covered it. You and I talked about it, but really a lot of people weren't talking about it because they didn't want Tesla to get further Osborne on a Model Y. And so what that was is you had the new Model 3 in January of 2024 in the US, and people saw how good it was. And then they assume that those similar changes would come to the Model Y. Upgraded suspension, much quieter, much better seats, just overall,
Backseat screen.
yeah, back screen and back seat, just a much improved vehicle. So what people did was they delayed their decision. That's called Osborne effect. When
Right.
they find out that the new product is going to be much better than the old one, and then they delay their purchases.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why, in my opinion, Tesla didn't really grow much last year.
Yep.
Um, and
I agree 100%.
yeah. And I think demand for the new Model Y is going to be extremely high. I think the upper limit for the new Model Y, and I don't think Tesla will be able to deliver this right away, is like 3 million per year,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
just based off of the size of the
Right.
SUV market, and it's kind of a crossover.
Yep.
But it's just a very good vehicle. I love my old Model Y. I'm gonna get a new one. So I'm gonna lease the new Model Y and got one on order. Excited about that. Um, but the production's coming way down. We think this is gonna greatly hurt Tesla's earnings for the quarter. We don't think it'll shift them into a loss, but it I'm guessing it'll be less than 50 cents a share in
Okay.
earnings potentially.
Mhm.
So it's gonna sting a bit. And the I'd say like the concern on a temporary basis is people just aren't gonna have the context because despite this being a major shift, Wall Street did not talk about this on their earnings call.
Right.
They didn't ask management about it, even though Wall Street tends to be short term, and this is like the biggest issue over the short term for Tesla. So people are going to be kind of blindsided by it.
And this could be, I mean, the headlines are that this is part of the reason we're seeing a little pullback right now.
Yeah, is people
It's
are
starting to
likely
get,
starting to realize this, and what confirms this is we have Alex Voigt is he's big into following Tesla in Germany, and he's pretending like this drop is for political reasons or something. Um it's not. It's the Model Y changeover. If you
you
don't
know,
have the cars to sell, you can't, you
being,
can't sell them.
being that he's a liberal, by the way, it wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that he doesn't want to admit that Germany's in a recession right now, literally in a recession.
Well, the rest of their EV industry was up over 50%, but they didn't change over their model like the
Right,
Model Y.
right.
So
Okay, so we might be down on car sales, but there is this other part of the Tesla business called energy, which you're supposed to be some kind of expert or something on that. I, I can, so let's just talk about Lathrop because I don't think Shanghai is going to have a big impact on the first quarter. It might have an impact. We could be
mhm.
talking about a few dozens of units that get shipped out or whatever, maybe 100 units out of Shanghai before the end of March. But what about Lathrop? My analysis, and I think you and I have even agreed on this a couple of weeks ago, between Lathrop's supposed 10,000 units a month, a year rather,
Yeah, a year, yeah.
year, and the power walls, we should be able to deploy about 13,000 uh, mega mega
Gigawatt hours.
hours. It's gigawatt hours per quarter if everything was smooth and if we were maximizing.
Right.
We've never hit 13. And they talk about it being lumpy. We were down a little last quarter. Couldn't we have a 14 number or a 15 even this next quarter?
I I don't think so. I think that like the awareness of the Powerwall 3 just isn't there. So it's selling well, but it's not, you're right, it's not selling to capacity. So I think that's been a little bit of a relative disappointment to the capacity Tesla has. It's a great product. The Powerwall 3 is where you have the inverter there and it's all in one piece. So there's no separate box for the inverter and it's a much easier install and it's a great product. Um, and I think people just don't know about it. Things with solar have slowed down a little bit in the US. Powerwall 3 is a little heavier in the US. Um, but one thing I commented to you in the green room is we don't know for sure that Lathrop's maximum capacity is 10 gigawatt hours. Um, it might be 20.
Okay.
Now I don't think necessarily they suddenly do 15 or 18 out of Lathrop, without the Powerwall, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla is sandbagging about the capacity.
Okay. And is there
And,
any?
and I'll give you one little
Okay.
piece of
Okay.
evidence.
All
So
right. Okay.
let's think about Giga Shanghai. When we
Right.
first heard about Giga Shanghai, they said it could produce 150,000 Model 3s per year.
Right.
Well, the true capacity of that was 250 from
Right.
that line.
Right.
So they were understating it by
Sure.
like over 60%. Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of situation like that with Lathrop, provided they can get the batteries and all that.
Yeah. So it could be a
Elon
battery.
did say they were battery
Right.
constrained.
Right. Okay. So while you don't think it'll happen this quarter, you could imagine a situation that even without Shanghai, just with Powerwalls and Lathrop, we could be looking at over 13 per quarter.
Hmm.
That could be maybe a 13 this quarter, it could be a 14, could be a 12. I mean, but we have this lumpiness because of the bookkeeping.
Yeah,
At some point, some of that bookkeeping's got to catch up. So the lumpiness doesn't always go down. The lumpiness
right.
goes up too. So this could be one of those quarters like the third quarter where we get a lumpiness that's higher rather than lower. That's all I'm saying. And that could make up some of the problem that you're seeing on the car side.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Okay.
unfortunately, it wasn't discussed on the call.
Right. Yeah. So we don't have anything to go on. All right, let's talk about the biggest news of the day. So we had two pretty big news things today,
Mhm.
both of which should make the stock go up. We'll talk about Optimus in a minute, but let's start with Ford.
Yeah.
So Jim Farley was on his call, and I guess
Mhm.
maybe if I understand it right, he's also had a second conversation, maybe on CNBC or someplace about this, but I'm not 100% sure of that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But what he basically said was, look, we're not stupid here.
Mhm.
Our own internal folks are not probably going to get us to level 4.
Right.
And we're beginning to get that. We think we have a great level 3 system, but level 4 maybe not going to happen. So we're probably going to have to partner with either Waymo or with Tesla. Basically, is what he said. Is
Yeah.
that how you understood it?
Yeah. Yeah, and they had a partnership with Argo AI, I believe.
Right.
That was a what I would call like a 0 + 0 = 0. You have these partnerships that happen and they don't end up adding value. So that was scrapped a long time ago. They do have Blue Cruise, but it's very limited. They don't have a level 4 solution. And basically, on the call, Jim Farley said that they were looking at partnering with Tesla or Waymo. And I think it's pretty clear that Waymo is not your generalized solution. It's also not your low cost solution. Um, so I think it my belief is if Ford does do it that they're likely to go with Tesla because it's the lower cost solution. Um, and I think it's a better solution.
Okay.
It
So,
also came out recently that Waymo um, disclosed their disengagements per miles per disengagement.
Right.
And they came greatly down. So as they expanded their territory, um, it got much worse for Waymo. So it was like something above 60,000 miles per disengagement. Now
Right.
it's under 30 as they've grown their territory. So it's a solution that I don't believe scales in the same way that Tesla's solution scales.
So then there's two sides to every deal, though. So one side is Jim says, I've looked it over and I've decided I really want to go with Tesla. And Elon goes, nah. So do we think that Elon wants to deal with Ford?
I think you would. I think in general, Tesla does want to provide this to other companies. They want to avoid being called a monopoly. So, just offering it to other companies may not be enough for antitrust type of people. Um, I don't think that necessarily puts pressure on Elon, but what what Tesla wants is a partners that are serious about it because Tesla will have to dedicate specific resources to this. They would need a team to help Ford or any other automaker implement this in their cars. And so it would take a substantial effort. Um, so what Elon said on his call, and this was in January of last year, was, they want automakers who are going to be building into the millions of EVs. Um, Now, potentially Ford isn't serious enough about EVs to meet that hurdle. So that's what could potentially soil any deal.
So then let's talk about the opposite side of that, though. What if Ford says, we'll put it on all of our cars? Elon has said over and over again that there's an ethical consideration here.
Hmm.
That to the extent that a government doesn't approve this, it would be ethically wrong because it can save lives. So if Farley says to Elon, look, I don't want to just put this on my EV cars. I want to put it on all my ICE cars as well. Would
Well,
how could Elon turn him down and not be called a hypocrite?
yeah, so you raise a great point. So I think the safety would trump the environmental concerns. So I think at that point Elon would consider that. And what makes me say so is when Elon interviewed with Sandy Munro for the first time, and they were down at Giga Texas, Giga Austin, um, toward the end of the interview, Sandy got Elon thinking about all the people that die every year in car accidents. So in the US, it's over 40,000 a year. Some of those might be from a word I'm not allowed to say on YouTube. I don't want to get you demonetized. Um, it begins with Sui and ends with I'd, but some of those might be that, but um, and 10 up to 10 times as many people are
Serious,
seriously injured in an accident in a life-changing way where they're not killed,
right,
but they're maimed in a bad way. That's just the United States.
right.
And you can see Elon in that interview think about that, and he gets like a tear in his eye, and it chokes him up.
Yeah, yeah,
So you're right. That's a powerful motivator where
right,
he might allow it to go on non-electric vehicles.
right. And of course, there's
Sorry,
another.
my answer's so long, but I
Oh, that was a
do
perfect.
think
I
this is
love
a
I love your answer.
powerful motivator.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And the other side of it is that I think there's going to be a lot of vehicles, even if Ford really got serious, I think there's going to be a lot of vehicles 5 years from now that are still ICE only because they'll be specialized in, unique little categories that maybe they only make 10,000 of this or 20,000 of that are still going to, they're going to be ICE because they just haven't had time or the engineering capacity to switch them over to electric. So that would be another reason to go ahead and allow Now that would change everything. I mean, that would really dramatically change the
Mm.
entire automotive landscape if all
Yeah.
of these were offered for ICE cars as well. Okay, what about the other thing though? Did you happen to see the video with Out of Spec? Out of Spec did the videos, then Brian did videos about the Out of Spec videos, and then I did the video with Brian talking about the Out of Spec videos. Did you see any of that?
About,
About the other the other driving systems, the other ADA systems in China right now from two or three different companies that are really good.
yeah, so there's a system, I believe it's called Avatar,
Right.
where the car is sold with the software included, and depending on the spec, it's between 40 and $60,000 US equivalent, and it's allowed for the whole country, so it's not geographically limited for China. Um, and it's supposed to be decent. I don't know if we've heard about early reviews, but it's interesting. They are using some LiDAR, I believe, so they might have figured out some sensor fusion or how to deal with where LiDAR's throwing off an alarm, but it's something to ignore
Yeah,
because LiDAR sometimes gets confused.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so uh, I I think there could be some serious competition. That might also be another reason why the stock's down a little bit is
Hmm.
people are a little worried, but I think that's mainly going to be in China.
Right. Mhm.
So like that Avatar car or whatever isn't going to be probably won't be allowed in the US
One
the
way,
way they're going. But
yeah.
we might, maybe with Trump, we get some kind of negotiation around um, allowing companies to keep their data in China and not have to I mean, to be able to transmit it to and from China.
Right, right.
Some kind of deal around TikTok and where, maybe some kind of grand deal where US social media companies are allowed in China and TikTok's allowed in the US. And um, I think Trump, I'm curious about this tariff negotiation with China. And I guess I'm wondering what you think, Randy, because I almost feel like Trump is getting China to negotiate against itself. Maybe there's an ask behind the scenes, but what Trump has said is we're doing 10% tariffs on China, and that's where he leaves it.
Right,
And allegedly what he wants is the fentanyl to stop
right.
coming out of China, but he doesn't say that. So China is left with telling the US what they're going to do to remedy it.
Mhm.
And Trump's like, okay, in a month or so, or 90 days, or however long, it's going to go up from 10% to 20. So he's like, okay, the ball's in your court, China. Um, so maybe there's a direct ask like there was for Mexico and Canada. What do you think is going on there? What would be your speculation?
Well, first of all, my understanding is that he was supposed to speak to Xi today, or if not today, tomorrow.
Mhm.
Was a meeting scheduled for yesterday. It got put off, but not necessarily because of some problem other than maybe schedules. But I think it's supposed to be today or tomorrow. I haven't heard anything today, so maybe it's going to be tomorrow. And I believe they're even maybe supposed to meet within 2 weeks, or at least their emissaries specifically around this. I think that Trump definitely wants to get Xi to re-up his offer to have the death penalty for individuals in China that are creating the precursors for the fentanyl. That
Mhm.
was at the end of his term. It was agreed upon. They were going to do it. And then Joe Biden never followed up on it, so it never took place. So he's going to want, at the very least, for Xi to do that in order to once again put off the 10% or whatever, to
Mhm.
get that 100% nailed down and clear. But I also believe that he's trying to create a new, a new world order. I think that he wants the countries around the world to stand on their own 2 feet. He doesn't want the United States to be the codependent any longer
Hmm.
for anybody. No, it doesn't matter where you are, third world, second world, first world, doing well, not doing well, recession, depression. He doesn't care. You need to be able to fight, on your own, equally. Now, does
Right.
that mean nobody's going to do any protectionism or anything? Of course, that's going to happen, but it needs to be way more balanced. And I think that's what he's saying. And he's got his way of doing that, the way of saying it.
Yeah.
That
And the
sounds
word he used to use was reciprocal. Remember that one?
right,
Rec
reciprocal. Yes,
reciprocal.
yes. And he's also called them names when he does this, in terms of not being standing on their own 2 feet. So I would have done it the opposite way. I would have said, no, it's just time for you guys to stand, pull up your knickers. No, how does that work? Anyway,
Mhm. Knickerbockers.
yeah, there's something. Becomes, join the world economy on an equal footing. We're no longer going to let you, get away with stuff. So that's what I think he's going to do. I think he's going to do that with Canada and Mexico. I think he's going to do it with China. They're the three biggest trading partners.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them, it will be like shooting ducks in a pond because he'll already have those three deals.
It's pretty impressive, like all the wins that have happened with Mexico, Panama, Venezuela, Colombia. Um, and people say, well, Canada already had a commitment on October to increase their border security, but Mexico hadn't yet committed the 10,000 troops on its border. So, that's what changed.
Well,
Uh,
not only did that change, it's one thing to say I'm going to do it, and it's another thing to have
Compliance.
compliance and
Yeah.
and proof and 30 days to do it. I mean, okay,
Yeah.
then you're going to do it. Okay, well, you haven't started. Where's the equipment? I don't see the equipment. I don't see the soldiers. Okay,
Mhm.
now you got
Where the
30.
helicopters. Yeah.
And there was a couple of little things. I don't know if you noticed. There was a few additional small things that were in the package that weren't in the
Mhm.
packages before. So yeah, no, there's a lot of difference between, oh, I'm going to say this before the election, and,
Mhm.
and then,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to do it, after the election. So
They got 27 days left to prove it.
you got 27 days to prove it. Exactly right. So, all right, let's look at Optimus is hiring.
Hmm.
Optimus is hiring 60 more people. They've already got a couple of hundred, right?
Yeah, 68 positions that
60 positions.
CERN Basher counted out.
Right.
I think they should create another position just to make it a nice 69. So that, likely means, that's a position. So it's probably over 500 people, if not more. So, there's multiple line operators. So there wouldn't just be one line operator, right? I don't know if that's one of the positions, but I'm just giving an example. So that's exciting. They hired people in November of 2023 to like head up the whole manufacturing of
Right.
Tesla Bot,
Right.
but to actually hire the people that are going to be running it, uh, that are going to be the on the floor,
Right.
that that's exciting.
Yeah.
And
Quality control and
yeah.
it's like all kinds of, so that means they must be pretty darn close to beginning that first thousand or two to test out the line.
Yeah,
So,
my guess would be that they would start to try something um a little more serious within 3 months. If if not six, so 3 to 6 months. I'd say six would be the longest that they would take to try to stand something up.
all right. So I'm going to build something that I haven't talked about yet because it just came to me today.
Okay.
I'm going to see what you think about it. Okay. We have got Grok 3 coming out like any minute. Okay.
Hmm.
Grok, according to Brian Wong, Grok 4 is going to be right behind it, like 4 months from now. But anyway, Grok 3 is coming out. Most people think that Grok 3 is going to have voice. Okay.
Hmm.
There's already other systems out there that have voice. So people are thinking that the Grok 3, you'll be able to vocally give your request and it will give you a vocal response. All right. So that's happening with Grok. Over here, other companies now also are putting in memory. So it will remember you. It will remember that you like chocolate ice cream as opposed to vanilla ice cream, etc. So it'll start to remember either what you want it to, or it'll just remember everything, which will take a
Hmm.
tremendous amount of storage, of course. But that's what I'm being told is that the memory portion is coming. And then you've also got the reasoning portion, or the ability to reason. Meanwhile, Optimus is coming down this way, and then the Robotaxi is coming up this way. Everything seems to be coming together kind of April, May, June-ish. I'm
Hmm.
beginning to think that our cars are going to be able to, I think the cars have to be able to talk when Robotaxi gets deployed. I think Optimus has to be able to talk on those factory floors. So I'm beginning to wonder whether are you young enough to have ever watched MASH and seen Radar?
I did Knight Rider, right?
Okay, but Radar was a different. Radar wasn't a robot. Radar
Mhm.
was the best assistant ever.
Mhm.
Was a lieutenant or something, and he would give the sergeant or whoever it was he was reporting to, I forget the ranks, before he would ask for it. He would turn to ask Radar to give him something, and Radar would have it in his hands.
Mhm. There you go.
Okay. So because it knew him so well, he knew
Right.
his boss so well. Well, I don't know. I'm sure you have noticed this. My wife tells me that when she gets in her car in the morning, if it's a weekday and it's 8 o'clock, then it is already got the navigation on for her school.
Right.
If she gets in on a Saturday, 3 weeks from the last time she got on a Saturday, it has her hairdresser in there.
Mhm.
It's already designed to go to her hairdresser.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
could we?
Yeah. So I went to a special meeting with Larry Goldberg. We met with a startup yesterday,
Okay.
and my day started at 3:30 a.m. And the car thought about the time of day, and it automatically set my destination to the airport.
Oh, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, so it knew that I've never gone to the office that early. It set my destination to the airport. So because it had instances where I'd done that, I'd gotten up that early and gone to the airport. Yeah, so it's very clever, and useful. Yeah.
So we could be looking at a situation because I've been waiting for it to just talk to me, you know,
Mhm.
just to be able to have the conversation. But if it not only can have a conversation with me, but also knows me, maybe even better than I know myself, like in the radar sense, that would be pretty impressive to have your car and your bot and your AI on your computer, your phone, have that kind of an understanding to be able to execute, to be able to know and then execute certain things before you even ask for them.
Yeah, I think that would be great. So with the humanoid bot, one concern I have is that um, so there's the whole thing with taking in video, and you have all the different cameras, and you have all the sensors in the hands of the bot. You have the sensors and all the actuators, so it's sensing the current and the resistance on the motors, all that stuff. Um, my concern is it may be hard for them to add language on the same compute.
Hmm.
So you may need a separate inference computer to handle things like remembering what people are wanting, um, changing a task. So like if you want the robot to change from putting batteries in the pack to taking the batteries out of a box, um, then you need to instruct it to do that. You can instruct it electronically or verbally, but it needs to be able to switch tasks
Right,
without you being forced to change its environment.
right,
Uh, so you need that. Um, the cars have speakers. Yeah, Optimus has speakers. They have cars and Optimus have microphones.
right,
Um, bare minimum, you maybe can communicate over the internet or Wi-Fi to
right.
talk with a language model and go back and forth that
Wow.
way. But ideally, you don't want it to be forced to have that connection.
Right.
Um, so I'm curious where that goes and what that capability is. Because if you if you suddenly need to be able to run a large language model on the robot itself,
Hmm.
it takes a lot of power to do that.
But maybe you do want it to go to the internet because wouldn't you want to be able to switch from your phone to your computer to your car and to your bot and have the same memory, the same information, the same understanding of uh, on all the systems to be identical?
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe it's with Bluetooth and your phone or the operator's phone, that
Our,
kind of thing.
our link.
Yeah. Yeah, the car, there's sometimes it doesn't communicate,
Right,
but I think in general, those blackouts are pretty limited. Um, being forced to have Wi-Fi connection, I think that's a little iffy. I think we've all dealt with,
right,
Wi-Fi meshes and how those can be a bit fragile at times.
right.
So you don't want to completely dependent on that. Um, so it's got to be able to recover from not being able to have that communication. So I'm interested to see where it goes. The Figure AI is claiming that they had some kind of breakthrough
Yes, I saw
in
that.
relation to their bot. Maybe they figured out where they can put voice and listening on the same model as the controls and the sensing. Maybe it can all just go together. Yeah, I think it's exciting that we're we're seeing this confluence. Um, and it's like the cars are driving great. I'm hearing great things. I think I'll do a poll and see like if people are having issues, but it doesn't sound like it.
No, I think it's yeah, even I'm on, we're on a camera, I mean, an AI 3, whatever it's called, uh,
Uh-huh.
and I think we're not even on the latest version because our Wi-Fi connection is not good in the garage. And
Uh-huh.
but I'm not sure. So I'll have to ask my wife, but it's been driving phenomenal, even though it was on a previous version. I mean, I have no interventions ever.
Hmm.
She said she has really no interventions, and she's driving like on residential and small city streets on her trip. So I don't know. It looks like come on. I'm assuming that you assume that Tesla has cars right now that they're 100% positive could be robotaxis now, and it wouldn't be a liability. I mean, between the guys they got driving up in Northern California, the ones that are driving around the lots now, I mean, I think they must believe that they're seeing it solved, or they wouldn't really have given us a date, I don't think.
That's a good point. I believe it's essentially solved. Two remaining issues I see for most hardware 4 vehicles or AI 4 vehicles is sometimes it doesn't take the right exit on the highway, so that would be a drag if it misses its exit and you lose 10 minutes. That would be a bad experience. You want to avoid people having a bad experience with the self-driving.
Right?
Um, Also, like it's not 100% with emergency vehicles yet. Um, so you want it to respect those the flashing lights for ambulance, fire truck,
Right.
police. Um, those are the main sticking points I'm seeing, but that's like we're getting to a really small list.
Right. Yeah. Larry Goldberg says there's still the last 30 inches problem, but we'll see.
Yeah, parking. So doing a great job. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, doing a great job with parking in a parking lot, but as long as it's parking safe, that's good. We do want to park where people aren't going to get mad at the car and want to lynch it.
All right, let me finish up with you with another argument that I've been having today with Gary Black on Robotaxi.
Okay.
And everybody's arguing with Gary Black, of course, because Gary Black is all the Tesla bulls believe one way and Gary believes another way. But I put together a list. I'm not going to even pull up the list. I'm just going to kind of think it through here in terms of how Waymo or Uber can survive without Tesla, without being part of the Tesla system, um, once Tesla has it done. So things that come to my mind is that the report that just came out the other day that Teslas go 200,000 miles, just a normal Tesla goes 200,000 miles, compared to the next best EV goes about 165,000 miles or something like that
Mhm.
without, falling over and dying.
Mhm.
ICE cars go even less than that. So that's a massive advantage in terms of the per mile. Uh,
Right.
okay. Then you've got the difference in the cost of the car. And again, I'm talking the United States now, not China. I'm talking the United States. The cost of the car is less. So that's another discount in terms of the um, per mile cost to get the job done. Then you've got the charging system. Tesla already has their own chargers where they're going
Right.
to, for their own fleet, it's going to only cost them cost.
Mhm.
Wherever they're plugging in, it's going to be at cost.
The
All over
Tesla
the
is the gas station.
Tesla is the gas station.
They are the repair shop.
And they've already got the locations for these gas stations where they can put in the cleaning booth so they can have the cleaning done at the same locations where they're having the station filling now. And I'm thinking pretty much even where they have them in these, Target parking lots or in the multi-level parking lots that they're renting, that those are going to be okay for them to park the cars overnight. So unlike Waymo or unlike Uber, they don't have to pay extra for any of that stuff.
Right.
How do those guys compete with that?
So I don't think 100% of transportation is going to Tesla suddenly overnight.
Not
Uh,
overnight.
there's what's interesting about Gary struggling with Tesla is he was an investor in Uber or Lyft. I
Still
think
is.
he's still
Still
I
is.
think
Still is an Uber. Mhm.
okay. So like if you understand the unit economics of Uber, which if you're invested in it, you should, you would understand like how to model this for Tesla.
Right.
I would hope.
Yes.
Um, so you can't just look at PE ratios or whatever. And but I would say like in Uber's defense, they are into logistics. So they have this thing called Uber Freight. So if you drive a semi, um, it's almost like a Uber for semis where they'll advertise, okay, if you take this load from Cincinnati to Indianapolis, by this time, here's how much we'll pay you. Um, and so Tesla's not immediately going to take over everything.
Right.
There'll be a role for Uber to help transact that business and match, the drivers with the need there.
It would just seem to me that once Tesla shows, once they've done a month of this or 2 months of this, and it becomes obvious that they can do it, that if they haven't already, both Uber and Waymo are going to have to come to Tesla on bended knee and just say, we want to be we want to be a wholesaler. We want to be involved. That's it. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, Uber and Lyft, yeah.
no, and Waymo too. I don't see how Waymo survives. Their cars cost too much. Even if they get the
Mhm.
LiDAR down in cost, they're still going to be paying. They're buying it from somebody else, and Tesla's, it's vertical. And Waymo doesn't have the charging infrastructure. They don't have the parking infrastructure.
Mhm.
They don't have the ability to go into a new city without pre-mapping and all the rest of the things they have to do. It just seems like they have no shot.
Well, it's possible Waymo could take a different approach.
Yeah,
So I'd say the main issue Waymo has now that they won't suddenly get is they don't have a fleet of 1 million hardware for cars in the US. And they won't suddenly get that. But they could change to a end-to-end vision approach. They could do that fairly easily. Um, yeah, but they don't have the data Tesla has, which would go back to your, in your favor.
yeah. It just seems like, and not to say that
And I'll say, Ford, if they license from Tesla, Elon said you need to run it on the Tesla app.
right.
So
But I'm
maybe
thinking co-branding.
yeah, maybe possibly part of the licensing deal would be they could have it on the Ford app.
Right.
But they would still need to license it from Tesla and pay that. So, maybe Uber and Lyft can do that same thing
Yeah, it's Tesla, what do you call it? Inside.
inside.
Tesla inside. Yes. Yes, co-branding is wonderful.
What Uber's not doing now is paying for the car. So
Right,
the driver's bringing the car.
right,
Um, so and they're also not like paying for the driver up front either.
right.
Um, so I, I agree with you. I believe it will be challenging for Uber. Um,
Well,
Uber,
I think it's a bigger challenge for Uber because nobody wants the driver.
right. Yeah. And
So,
you're not going to be tempted to, I mean, you might enjoy the Tesla, but really you're not going to tip in a Tesla.
it's
You might be liquored up and Tesla might offer the ability to tip and you'll be like, this was awesome. I'm giving a tip, even though there's no driver. But like you have that advantage.
yes,
Your
yes.
driver's never gonna be eating a food that has a strong smell or talking on their phone to someone in their family. Um,
Playing
or
horrific music.
yeah, in general they're good with not playing music, but
I would say that at least 15% of my rides, and by the way, the worst was in Canada
well,
and in Buffalo going into Canada, were the worst Uber rides I've ever had. But they didn't seem to care what I thought about how their vehicles looked. They didn't care that they had
mm,
religious literature that they were offering me in the back seat. They didn't care.
mm,
There was no customer service at all. But yeah, overall, I would say that most of my rides on Uber are okay, but I'd still rather have no driver. I might
mm.
have to think about whether I'm going to have a conversation. I can get my phone out, start doing work from the minute I get into the vehicle.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of advantages to not having the driver. You think about the cyber cab, because you don't have a driver, the up to two people will be be your fare. So like you're not wasting a seat on the driver.
Right.
And you're
Exactly.
not there's also not the awkwardness where, sometimes you might have so many people with you that someone sits in the same row as the driver because that can
Driver
be
has to,
awkward.
and the driver is moving all of the stuff off the chair and
Now I'll say this, if there's not steer by wire and
uh,
we're doing a Model 3 Y, S or X, um, then people might not be allowed to sit in the driver's seat.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
So you might just not be able to sit there, but it won't be as awkward.
No, we do. All right. Well, I think that covers everything I've got today. You have any last words of wisdom before we share the numbers with these folks?
No, you can check me out on rebellionaire.com.
You can.
Matt Smith and I, we offer help to people who are all in on Tesla. That if that's not you, that's fine. That's not financial advice for you to be all in on Tesla. So I am a financial advisor. It's not financial advice. And let's just get right to the numbers.
Let's get right to the numbers. All right, sir. It has been great, as always, having you on board, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Absolutely. Bye for
Bye for
now.
now. All right. So, as you probably already know, I'll just briefly tell you that we had a mixed day on Wall Street with the S&P up, the NASDAQ up. So the S&P was 22, NASDAQ up 99, but the Dow down 125. And Tesla was down 386 during the regular trading, but had been down, I think, 14 at one point. So came back about 10. Now, in the after hours, Tesla has gone back down 347. So now we're trading around 370. I think what this means is we've lost the 380. Okay. The 380 is no longer the floor. 360, that's the Randy Kirk floor. If you're a technical analyst, you can let me know in the comments below how stupid I am with regard to my technical analysis. But that's my new floor, 360. I don't think it's very likely we go below that unless the entire market goes down. I think it's going to require the market to lose, and I've been calling for that. So it doesn't mean that I don't think we're going to go down 10 or 20% on the S&P, in which case Tesla could definitely retest 300, no doubt about it. All right. So we've got the percentages on that was Dow down 0.28, NASDAQ down up 0.51, S&P up 0.36, and the Cathie Woods ended up they ended up down after starting up nicely. The bonds did start some profit taking, and that impacted. I think that's what impacted the Cathie Woods stocks. All right, let's go ahead and look at that bond number. So where are we on the bonds? Good. It's in the pre-market. It's only down 0.2, but we are now looking at 4.438. My number is 4.25 now. That's the one I'm looking for. I think that's the next floor that we need to break through now that we're back through the 4.5, and we challenged on starting up today, but but it was the buyers took over, so that was good. Let's see, we've got uh, oil falling again, but only 2 cents now in the pre-market down to 70.59. Again, I think we might be under 70 tomorrow. Lots of supply, not as much demand, lots of new supply coming. So I definitely think we'll see in the 60s shortly. We've got nat gas down again, 0.97, sitting at 3.375. Gold up $5, sitting at 28.82. So it is continuing to be just on the verge of its recent all-time high. I mean, it's been trading at its all-time high, in the range of its all-time high now, after breaking through the 27 95 or whatever it was, up into the 2800s, stuck around the low 2800s now, high 2800s. So it's continuing to be selling very well. Silver 32.6, again 34 being that resistance on that. Copper very much in the same range, up 0.03 at $4.46. We have got the dollar. Yeah, still, way up there, but on some days it's a little soft, but it's way up there at the top. Bitcoin sitting at 96,681, down 781 for the day. And here we go with the The stock futures, the equity futures, I'm sorry, Dow Jones down 125 more, or 0.28 down. S&P up 0.36 percent, or 2209, and the Nasdaq up 0.51, or 99.66. So what we're seeing here is a bunch of we're seeing the market, the S&P and the Nasdaq up a little bit. We got the bonds even. Basically, everybody's waiting for tomorrow. Okay, that's what they're waiting for tomorrow. I'm sorry, I just gave you completely wrong information about the stock market for tomorrow. I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me for the 12 of you who are still listening? Everything's down, but not very much. It's like flat. Call it flat. Very sorry. Completely wrong information. I'll I should. I don't have time to cut it out, so I'm just going to have to ask your apology for you to accept my apology. So everything's flat. 0.01 down for the Dow, 0.05 for the S&P, and 0.04 for the Nasdaq. So basically, again, we're looking at everybody just kind of hanging in there, waiting to see what happens with those job numbers in the morning. I will be here, of course, as always, at 7:45 tomorrow morning to help you through that. Later on tonight, you got Cern Basher. Really good show from Cern. That'll be on at 7:45 Pacific. Regular programming tomorrow. And last night, you had Brian Wong. That was an outstanding show. You should go back and look at that. I'll put the card right here. Let's go ahead and get this one published so you can check out what Bradford Ferguson had to say tonight. It's been great talking to you.